Good morning to everyone. So welcome to Vidya Mandir online classes. So this is Venkat sir. So today we are going to discuss the quantitative estimations. So in the last part of the video we discussed the qualitative analysis, where we discuss how to detect the elements present in the unknown organic compounds. So there, detection of carbon, hydrogen, detection of nitrogen, detection of sulfur, detection of halogens, detection of phosphorus. So like this, we discuss the ways how to detect the elements present in the unknown organic compound. The next step is, after we detect the elements, what is the percentage composition of the elements present in the unknown organic compound, and that process of estimating the percentage composition of elements present in the unknown organic compound, that process we call it as what? Quantitative estimation. Quantity means amount. So what is the percentage composition of elements present in the given unknown organic compound? That process we call it as what? Quantitative estimation. Okay, now before we start this quantitative estimation, so what is percentage composition? Let us briefly we discuss. Percentage composition. Percentage composition is nothing but it is the amount of element present in given weight of compound. Given weight of compound. So always the given weight, we always calculate this percentage composition for 100 grams. So based upon this definition, we can give the formula, that is percentage composition of any element is equal to the weight of the element, whose composition we are going to calculate, weight of that element divided by the total weight of compound into 100. So for example, in CO2, what is the percentage composition of carbon? What is the percentage composition of carbon? So what is that? Percentage carbon is equal to, what is the weight of element? So here in this CO2, how many of carbon atoms are there? 1. What is the atomic weight of 1 carbon? 12. 12 by total weight of the compound. What is the total molecular weight of the compound here? 12 plus 32. So the total molecular weight is 44 into 100. 2 11s are 2 22s are. Then 2 6s are 2 22s are, 2 3s are 2 11s are, 3 by 11. So that means nearly 300 by 11. 11 2s are 22, 11 7s are 27.28 percentage of carbon. Similarly, the percentage of oxygen is equal to, what is the weight of oxygen here? Total 2 oxygen atoms are there, 2 16s are 32 divided by total molecular weight of the compound 44 into 100. So if you simplify, you will get the percentage of oxygen. Definitely it will be 100 minus 27.28, so it will be nearly 72.72 percentage will come. So likewise we can calculate the percentage of each element present in the compound. Okay, so this is the formula, weight of that element divided by total weight of the compound into 100. And one more formula is also there, that is percentage composition is equal to number of elements into atomic weight of that element divided by total molecular weight of the compound into 100. Okay, so for example, H2O, if you take H2O, what is the percentage of hydrogen is equal to, here number of, here we are calculating the percentage of hydrogen. So how many of hydrogens in the given compound? 2 hydrogens are there. So number of elements is 2 and atomic weight of hydrogen is 1. 2 into 1, 2 by total molecular weight 18 into 100. So likewise, by using either this or this, we can calculate the percentage of element in every compound. So this is about the percentage composition. Now we are going to calculate this percentage composition, means percentage composition of carbon, hydrogen, and then sulfur, and then halogens, then phosphorus, then nitrogens in detail. Now estimation of carbon and hydrogen. Okay, what is the percentage of carbon and hydrogen in the given organic compound? Let us see how. And this method of estimating the percentage of carbon and hydrogen, this method also we called as Liebig's method. Liebig's method. So let us see this method. So first of all, take the given organic compound. Always here in estimations, always you should note down the weight of the organic compound that we have taken. That means the weight of this organic compound that we should know. So this is a known weight. We know the weight of this organic compound. Always take the known weight of organic compound. To this known weight of organic compound, you do the oxidation. Do the oxidation in the presence of copper oxide. By using copper oxide as an oxidizing agent, you do the oxidation. After you do the oxidation, you know organic compounds generally having carbon, hydrogen. Along with this carbon and hydrogen, some other elements also present. So carbon and hydrogen definitely will be present in the organic compound. So after we do the oxidation, the carbon present in the organic compound will oxidizes into carbon dioxide and hydrogen is oxidizing into water. Okay, carbon is oxidizing into carbon dioxide, hydrogen is oxidizing into water. Now, this mixture, if you pass this mixture through KOH solution, KOH has a speciality that it's a solvent, and in this solvent almost all oxides of non-metals can dissolve. Almost all oxides of non-metals can able to dissolve in KOH. It has this unique feature. So here carbon dioxide is an oxide of carbon. It's an oxide of non-metal. So when you pass this mixture into this KOH solution, automatically the whatever the CO2 that was produced will able to dissolve in it. Okay, so initially before we pass this, the weight of KOH, let us you consider as X. So X is the weight of KOH before, and after you send this CO2 into this KOH solution, the weight of KOH becomes what? Y grams. Okay, then the difference. So what is the difference? That is Y minus X. Y final weight minus initial weight. Y minus X will be the what? This will be the weight of CO2 produced. Okay, so by using this KOH solution, by changing the weights of KOH solution, we concluded the weight of CO2 produced in the above oxidation. Similarly, when you send this mixture into N-hydrous CaCl2, N-hydrous CaCl2, calcium chloride is having high hydrating power, so it's always trying to get the water. But when you have taken anhydrous CaCl2, almost all H2O vapor that was produced, it will be absorbed by the CaCl2. So initial weight of CaCl2 you consider as A grams, but after it absorbed the H2O, it becomes B grams. Then what will be the weight of H2O? So the difference is what? B minus A. That will be what? Weight of H2O produced. Understood now? So after we oxidize the given organic compound, the carbon is oxidizing into carbon dioxide, hydrogen is oxidizing into H2O, and the weight of CO2 liberated, that we concluded by using KOH as a solvent, and the weight of H2O we concluded by using anhydrous CaCl2. So finally we know the weights of CO2 produced and also weights of H2O liberated. By using these weights, weight of CO2 and weight of H2O, I am going to calculate the percentage of carbon and hydrogen. Let us see. The percentage of carbon is equal to, so carbon is coming out as what? Carbon dioxide, right? So, and we know the weights of carbon dioxide. So the percentage of carbon is equal to weight of CO2 produced divided by the weight of organic compound, weight of OC stands for organic compound, into, in this CO2 percentage composition of carbon, how you calculate? Weight of carbon by total weight of the compound into 100. So what is the weight of carbon in this? 12. By total molecular weight of CO2, 12, 44 into 100. By using this formula, we can calculate the percentage of carbon. So once again, the carbon is coming out as CO2. By using weight of that CO2, I am calculating the percentage of carbon. What is that? Percent of carbon is equal to weight of CO2 produced divided by weight of the organic compound into 12 by 44. Why? Because in the CO2 we are going to calculate the percentage of carbon. That is why 12 by 44. 44 is the molecular weight of CO2 into 100. Similarly, the percentage of hydrogen is equal. Now hydrogen is coming out as what? Water. And we know the weight of water produced. So percentage of hydrogen is equal to weight of water liberated divided by weight of organic compound into, in H2O, how many of hydrogens are there? 2 are there. And the atomic weight of each hydrogen, 1. 2 ones are 2. So 2 by, and total molecular weight of H2O is 18 into 100. So by using these two formulas, I am going to calculate the percentage of carbon and percentage of hydrogen. Okay, now here we are using an apparatus. In this Liebig's method, we are using an apparatus, and this apparatus consists of 3 portions. So one is oxygen apparatus, oxygen providing tube, and the second one is combustion tube, and the third one is absorption tube. These are the 3 portions in this apparatus. In oxygen tube, here we are supplying the oxygen to the organic compound so that then only oxidation can take place. So this is supplying oxygen to the organic compound. Here whatever the tube that we are using here, that is what we call as oxygen supplying tube. Next, here we should heat it. Okay, after we supply the oxygen, we should heat it. And this heating and all we do in a special tube, that is what we call as a combustion. Combustion means we know that burning in the presence of oxygen is called what? Combustion. And the special tube that we are using to do this heating, we call it as what? Combustion tube. Next, after we produce this CO2 and H2O, to collect this CO2 and H2O we are doing here KOH and here anhydrous CaCl2, and this collection of CO2 and H2O, this entire thing is going on in which tube? absorption tube. Okay, so overall Liebig's method or Liebig's apparatus having three portions. One is oxygen supplying tube, the second one is a combustion tube, and third one is what? Absorption tube. Next, here we should know an important general formula for any hydrocarbon. If you take a hydrocarbon having X number of carbons and Y number of hydrogens. How many of carbons? X number of carbons and Y number of hydrogens. It always consumes X plus Y by 4 moles of oxygen. How many moles of oxygen it consumes? X plus Y by 4 moles of oxygen, and liberates X moles of CO2 and Y by 2 moles of H2O. Okay, so this general combustion reaction of hydrocarbons is very useful to write the moles of the products produced directly. For example, you take CH4. 1 mole of methane consumes how many moles of oxygen? Here is the formula, X plus Y by 4 moles of oxygen. Here X value is 1, Y value is 4. So 1 plus 4 by 4. 4 by 4 is 1, 1 plus 1, 2 moles. It consumes 2 moles of oxygen and produces X moles of CO2. Here X is about 1. So 1 mole of CO2 and Y by 2 moles. Here Y value 4, 4 by 2. That means it produces 2 moles of H2O. So simply by using this generalized formula, we can write any balanced equation for a combustion of any hydrocarbon. Next, we should remember 3 points. Organic compounds means always they doesn't have only carbon and hydrogen. Okay, along with carbon and hydrogen, other elements like nitrogen, sulfur, halogens may be present. So, in the first case, if nitrogen is present along with carbon and hydrogen, what will happen? If nitrogen is present along with carbon and hydrogen, if nitrogen is present after the combustion, carbon is coming out as a CO2, hydrogen is coming out as what? Water, then nitrogen. So definitely nitrogen also undergoes oxidation, and the nitrogen is coming out as what? Oxides of nitrogen. Okay, so the nitrogen is coming out as oxides of nitrogen. So oxides of nitrogen means it can be N2O, NO, N2O3, NO2, N2O5, etc. So when the nitrogen is coming out as oxides of nitrogen, as we know, KOH has a specialty that it can able to dissolve oxides of non-metals. So along with this CO2, these oxides of nitrogen also will be dissolved in this KOH. With this, the weight of actual CO2 will change. With this, the percentage of carbon will change, will be differ from the actual percentage. So to avoid that, what we should do? To avoid that, to stop this oxidation of nitrogen into oxides of nitrogen, here I am adding the strips of copper. The strips of copper I am using here. Okay, what is the role of this copper? This copper reduces the oxides of nitrogen into nitrogen. So this copper, what is the role of copper here? This copper converts or reduces oxides of nitrogen into nitrogen. So there was no interruption, or there was no change in the weights of CO2 from the actual value. So this is a one point you should remember. Okay, in case of presence of nitrogen along with carbon and hydrogen, nitrogen is oxidizing into oxides of nitrogen after the combustion. Okay, so that it will interrupt the weights of CO2 produced. To prevent that, add some strips of copper to it, and that copper will reduce that formed oxides of nitrogen back into nitrogen, and that nitrogen will evaporate. So this is the first point you should remember. The second point, instead of nitrogen, if halogens are present, what will happen? If halogens are present along with carbon and hydrogen. What will happen? If halogens are present along with the carbon and hydrogen, okay, you just use silver, strip of silver. Okay, so what will happen? This silver will go and reacts with this halogen, and it converts these halogens into halides, silver halides, and that silver halides are precipitated down. So there was no chances of changing the weights of CO2 and H2O formed. So in case of presence of halogen, so what we are doing? We are adding strips of silver to it. Next one, third case. If sulfur is present along with carbon hydrogen. If sulfur is present, what will happen? So if sulfur is present, after the combustion, carbon is coming out as carbon dioxide, hydrogen is coming out as what? Water. And what about the sulfur? Sulfur also will come out as what? Sulfur dioxide or sulfur trioxide. Again they will dissolve in the KOH. It will interrupt the weights of CO2 produced. So to prevent that, add lead chromate to this. So what will happen after the addition of lead chromate? This lead will go and react with this sulfur and they forms lead sulfide and it will precipitate it down. With this there was no chances of producing oxides of sulfur to it. Okay, so likewise we can prevent the conversion of nitrogen to nitrous oxides and halogens to halides and sulfur to sulfur dioxides. So this is about Liebig's method of detection of estimation of percentage of carbon and hydrogen. Now let us take an example how to calculate the percentage of carbon. In a problem they given like this: if 1.2 grams of an organic compound on combustion liberates 8.8 grams of CO2 and 3.6 grams of water. 1.2 grams of organic compound on combustion liberates 8.8 grams of CO2 and 3.6 grams of water. Then calculate percentage of carbon and hydrogen. That's the question. Let us see. So tell me, what is the weight of organic compound here? This is already given, that is 1.2 grams, and weight of CO2 produced is 8.8 grams, and weight of H2O liberated, that is 3.6 grams. Now let us take the formula for the percentage of carbon. What is the formula percent of carbon? That is weight of CO2 by the weight of organic compound into 12 by 44 into 100. That is equal to, what is the weight of CO2 produced? 8.8. So 8.8 by weight of organic compound. What is the weight of organic compound? 1.2. 1.2 into 12 by 44 into 100. 1.2 tens are. Next 4.4 twos are, 4.4 tens are. 10 cancel. So finally 2 into 100, 200%. Okay, so likewise we will get it. Next one, percentage of hydrogen. That is equal to weight of, what is the formula? Weight of H2O liberated by the weight of organic compound into 2 by 18 into 100. So that is equal to weight of H2O. What is the weight of H2O produced? 3.6 grams by weight of organic compound 1.2 grams into 2 by 18 into 100. 1.2 3s are 3 to the 6 3s are, that is nearly 33.33 percentage will come. Okay, it should not be more than 100. Here we are taking approximate value, that is why it is exceeding 100%. Don't be worried. So I think you understood how to calculate the percentage of carbon and percentage of hydrogen by using the weights of CO2 and H2. Clear? Next, let us move to the next estimation, that is the estimation of sulfur present in the given organic compound. Estimation of sulfur, and this method of estimation of sulfur, this method we call it as Carius method. Carius method. Yes, why we are calling this method as a Carius method? Why? Because in this method we use a special apparatus that is called Carius tube. Carius tube. What is this Carius tube? Carius tube is nothing but it is an transparent thick-walled glass tube. So Carius tube is what? It's a transparent, completely transparent, and it's having thick walls, having high resistance towards heat, and it's a glass tube. So this tube, this special tube, we call it as Carius tube. Because of using this Carius tube in this method, we call this as Carius method. Okay, let us see the method of estimation. Take the known weight of organic compound whose weight is known to us. Take the known weight of organic compound. To this, add concentrated HNO3. Concentrated HNO3. And if you add the concentrated HNO3, suppose if this organic compound having carbon, concentrated HNO3 act as an oxidizing agent. So this oxidizing agent will oxidize the carbon into carbon dioxide, hydrogen into water, and if there was a sulfur in it, that sulfur is coming out as sulfur dioxide. The concentrated HNO3 is converting the sulfur into sulfur dioxide. So after that, this sulfur dioxide is further dissolved in water, and SO2 is converting into SO3, and this SO3 on dissolution in the water, we get sulfuric acid. Okay, you can remember the sulfur dioxide or else direct step. Concentrated HNO3 finally, ultimately oxidizes the sulfur into what? Sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid. This is also called king of acids, sulfuric acid. Okay, now to this sulfuric acid, if you add barium chloride solution, when you add barium chloride solution to the H2SO4, the barium ion will go on reacts with the sulfate ion, and we get barium sulfate precipitate. So this is a white colored precipitate. Immediately the barium ion and sulfate ion will both join together and they form a white colored precipitate, that is called barium sulfate. So it was crystallized, it was precipitated. So after you filter that precipitate, and after you filter that precipitate, make it dry. Okay, after it was completely dried, means remove loss of water, by using that weight of barium sulfate. After it was completely dried, we can weigh the weight of barium sulfate produced. Now, by using this weight of barium sulfate produced, we are going to calculate the percentage of sulfur. That is the importance of barium sulfate here. So in case of carbon and hydrogen, by using carbon dioxide, we calculated the percent of carbon. In case of water, by using weight of water, we calculate the percentage of hydrogen. Whereas in case of sulfur, by using the weight of barium sulfate, we are going to calculate the percent of sulfur. Let us see. The percentage of sulfur is equal to weight of barium sulfate precipitated, weight of barium sulfate divided by the weight of organic compound into, in barium sulfate, how many of sulfur atoms are there? Only one. Okay, what is the atomic weight of sulfur? 32. 32 by total molecular weight of barium sulfate. Total molecular weight of barium sulfate. So that is 233. 233. If you want, you can do this. Barium is atomic weights of barium. Barium is 137 and the sulfur is 32 and oxygen, each oxygen is 16, 16 4s are 64. Okay, so if we calculate 710, 233. Okay, so 32 by 233 into 100. By using this formula, we can calculate the percentage of sulfur. Once again, the percent of sulfur is equal to weight of barium sulfate by weight of organic compound into 32 by 233 into 100. Okay, let us take a sample example. Sample example. If 1.6 gram of organic compound on oxidation, on treating, on reaction with BaCl2 produces 2.33 grams of barium sulfate. 2.33 grams of barium sulfate. Then the percentage of sulfur. What is the percentage of sulfur in the given organic compound? Now tell me, what is the weight of organic compound? That is 1.6 gram. And the weight of barium sulfate produced is what? 2.33 grams. Now substitute this value in the above equation. The percent of sulfur is equal to weight of barium sulfate. What is the weight of barium sulfate? 2.33. 2.33 by weight of organic compound 1.6 into sulfur 32 by and 233 into 100. 2.33 100 cancel. Remaining is 1.6 20. So the percent of sulfur is equal to 20%. So likewise, we can easily calculate the percentage of sulfur from the given data. Okay. Next one, estimation of halogens. Estimation of halogens. Even this method is also we call it as Carius method. Why? Because even in this method also we use a special apparatus that is called Carius tube. So we also call this method as Carius method of estimation of halogens. Now let us see the method of estimation. Take the known weight of organic compound whose weight is known. So known weight of organic compound. To this add silver nitrate in presence of HNO3. In presence of HNO3, add AgNO3 to the organic compound. Here, after the addition of AgNO3 to this, it has halogens. Suppose let us consider if halogens are present in it. These halide ions will go on react with the silver and they produces what? If it is chlorine, bromine, iodine. Chlorine reacts with the AgNO3, we get AgCl. AgCl is what? Curdy white PPT. It will be precipitated. If it is a bromide, it will come out as what? AgBr, precipitate. And this is what? Pale yellow color. If it is iodide, we are getting AgI. This is what? Yellow color. So we are getting a precipitate of either white or pale yellow or yellow. Once we get these precipitates, okay, any one of these, definitely if chlorine is there, white PPT, bromide, pale yellow, and iodide is what? Yellow. You filter this. After we get this precipitate, you filter this. After you do the filtration, that filtrate, collect that filtrate and make it dried. After it was completely dried, based upon the weight of either AgCl or AgBr or AgI, I'm commonly writing as AgX. By using this weight of AgX, we are going to calculate the percentage of halide ion present in the organic compound. Let us see. In case of, so here I am writing the formulas. Percentage of chlorine. Percentage of chlorine. Chlorine is coming out as what? AgCl. And that weight of AgCl we can know after the experiment. So percentage of chlorine is equal to weight of AgCl by weight of organic compound into. In AgCl, how many chlorine atoms are there? Only one, and its atomic weight is 35.5. And AgCl molecular weight. So silver atomic weight, always remember the Umbrance number, 108. 108 plus 35.5, that is what? 143.5 into 100. By using this formula, we can calculate the percentage of chlorine. So once again, weight of AgCl by weight of organic compound into 35.5 by 143.5 into 100. Similarly, percentage of bromine is equal to, bromide I am coming out as what? AgBr. So weight of AgBr by weight of organic compound into, in AgBr, what is the how many of bromine? Only one, and the atomic weight of bromine is 80. Okay, and AgBr, this is 108 and this is what? 80. So total how much? 188 into 100. 80 by 188 into 100. So this is the formula for the percentage of bromine. Next one, percentage of iodine. Iodine is coming out as what? Silver iodide. So the weight of AgI, and the weight of organic compound into. In AgI only one iodine atom is there. Atomic weight of iodine is what? 127. 127, and AgI molecular weight 127 plus 108. So how much? So it will be 135 and 235. 235 into 100. So by using these three formulas, we can calculate the percentage of chlorine, bromine and iodine. So estimation, this formula is only very important. Okay, so let us take few examples how to calculate. So let us see this example. If 0.35 grams of an organic compound produces 1.43 grams of AgCl after the reaction with AgNO3, then calculate the percentage of chlorine. Now tell me, what is the weight of organic compound they consider? 0.35 grams. And weight of AgCl produced is how much? 1.43 grams. Let us take the formula for the percentage of chlorine, that is weight of AgCl by weight of organic compound into 35.5 by 143.5 into 100. Now substitute the values. Weight of AgCl 1.43 by weight of organic compound 0.35 into 35.5 by 143.5 into 100. 1.43 hundreds, 0.35 hundreds, 100 cancel. So finally, what percentage of chlorine is there? 100 percentage. Okay, so like this we can calculate the percentage composition of chlorine, bromine or iodine. Okay, I hope you understood how to calculate the percentage of carbon hydrogen by Liebig's method and percentage of sulfur and percentage of chlorine, bromine, iodine by Carius methods. Okay, in the next part of the video we will continue the estimation of phosphorus and estimation of nitrogen. Okay, until then take care, bye.